Hey everyone, welcome to the investor.bet NRL Round 6 betting trends preview video. Every week in this video I go through all the upcoming games, look at the betting odds for these matches, and we'll compare that to the previous times these sides have met, and also look at who's been covering, have their games been going over or under, also has their recent form been favoring overs or unders, or covering or not covering. The reason I do this is so you can make informed betting decisions. So from a trends perspective, you can have this part of the information which you can then match up when lineups come out and break it down further with the statistics from the NRL Bet Finder software. Looking at the first game of the round, we have the Redcliffe Dolphins against the Penrith Panthers. Dolphins coming off their first win of the season. Panthers have lost 4 straight, looking to avoid 5 losses in a row. Penrith come up favourites here, $1.42, minus 7.5 on the handicap, and we have a total of 48.5 points. These sides have only met twice. Penrith have won both of those matches, but Dolphins have covered the spread in both of those matches. They met once last season, Penrith winning 28 points to 26 as 12.5 point favourites at home. Redcliffe well and truly covering the spread in that game. And then they last met in Queensland back round 2023. Penrith won 24-14 as 10.5 point favourites. Redcliffe only covered the spread in that matchup by half a point. Their matchup last season went over a total of 46.5, and with a total of 54 points being scored. The total has also climbed from a 44.5 to a 46 to a 48.5 now across their past 3 meetings. As I mentioned, Redcliffe coming off their first win of the season last week against the Titans. Prior to that, they kept the Broncos to just 20 points and lost by 8. That was in wet conditions. But that form obviously does look pretty good now, and Titans also had won 2 games leading into that matchup last week. Redcliffe have now covered their past 2. They're also 1-4 under so far this season. So the only game that's gone over was their matchup against the West Tigers. And then for the Panthers, 4 losses in a row. Their past 2 have gone under, and they've also failed to cover the spread in both of those. The one concern for Penrith is that their past 2 games, they've only scored 18 points in each of those matches. And from where those teams sit on the ladder, it's very, very similar to what the Dolphins and the kind of averages the Dolphins have been putting up so far this season. So against the Rabbitohs and Cowboys, numbers-wise, this is a very similar opponent for Penrith. Obviously, there's a huge reliance on Cleary for the Panthers. You'd expect he gets them over the line as favourites here, but I just don't think there's a great deal of value as it currently stands with the Panthers, but expect them to get the job done. First game on Friday night, we have the Dragons against the Gold Coast Titans. Dragons, $1.60, minus 4.5 point favourites, and a 49.5 point total for this game. This matchup has a history of going under the total. 8 of the past 10 head-to-head have gone under, including the past 3. Last time they met was round 24 last season, and there was a 52.5 point line, 48 points scored, so went under there. And then they also met down in Sydney in round 1 with a 41.5 point line, Dragons winning 28 points to 4. So you can understand why the bookmakers have moved their previous line down from the 52.5 down to 49.5. The Dragons, their past 3 games this season have all gone under the total points line. Those matches being against the Eels, Storm, and Rabbitohs. Only the game in round 1 against the Bulldogs, which went over with 48 points being scored. For the Gold Coast Titans, their last 3 games have also gone under against the Knights, Roosters, and Dolphins, with 2 of those games being played in wet conditions. Titans also coming off their lowest score of the season last week against the Dolphins. Dragons have won and covered 4 of the past 5 versus Gold Coast. Won both games last season. Titans won at home in 2023. The Dragons have won the past 3 at their home venue against the Titans across those past 5 matches. I think this is a good bounce back opportunity for both sides coming off losses. Dragons losing to Parramatta, Titans losing to the Dolphins. I think we'll see a bit of a low scoring grind in this matchup. So leaning towards the unders. From a sides perspective, I think the value probably lies with Gold Coast. They've been the better overall side so far this season, and you can forgive one letdown performance where they got off to a bad start with the captain being sin-binned in the first minute and didn't really recover from that. And they're against a side who are desperate for a win. And so I think the value currently lies with the Titans. Broncos versus Roosters. Broncos $1.20 favorites, minus 13.5. We have a 49.5 point total for this game. Broncos come into this winning 3 straight, 4-1 overall in the season. These sides met back in round 1 in Sydney with the Broncos winning 50 points to 14, which obviously went over the total, which was 43.5. We have a 6-point higher number with this game being played in Brisbane this time around. Last time they met at Suncorp was round 9 last season, and the Roosters won that game 40 points to 18. But the way these sides have travelled this season particularly, that looks like a big difference since then. 4 of the past 7 head-to-head have gone over the number, including the past 2. You'd expect we see points in this game. Broncos leaked 5 tries last week against the Tigers and scored 7 of their own. And Broncos are also 3-2 to the... For the Roosters, their last 3 games have gone under. However, they've played the Warriors, Titans, and Rabbitohs, who are all mid-range or below average attacking sides. Broncos currently rank as the number 2 attacking side in the league. This is a much bigger challenge for them. They have also conceded 30 plus in 3 of their 5 games so far. I think Broncos win this game, win it comfortably at home, even though the Roosters have a good record against them, winning 6 of the past 8 and covering 3 of the past 4. Brisbane get it done. They go 5-1 on the season. Roosters fall to 1-5 with a game following against the Panthers. I think that's a pretty straightforward game. Expect points and Brisbane to be winning. On to Saturday, the first of the doubleheader in Perth. You have the Sharks against the Manly Seagulls. On Saturday, the first game is the first of the doubleheader in Perth with the Sharks against the Manly Seagulls. Sharks favourites here, $1.50, minus 5.5. Back-to-back losses leading into this game against the Bulldogs and Raiders. And the total is 48.5. Seagulls obviously coming off a big defeat against the Melbourne Storm on Sunday. Sharks are well advantaged in this game. They have a 9-day turnaround compared to the Seagulls coming into this game on just a 6-day turnaround. That's a huge advantage for the Sharks that they need to capitalize on. They have a good record against Manly. They've won and covered 6 of the past 7 versus the Seagulls. Last season they met in round 27. The Sharks winning 40 points to 20. That was the final game of the regular season. Prior to that, they didn't meet previously until round 21 in 2023, with Manly winning that game by 4 points at Shark Park when the Cronulla were big favourites. No home field advantage for either side, which hasn't really proven to be that much of an advantage recently, with the away side winning the past 4 and scoring plenty of points in those games. 8 of the past 11 head-to-head have gone over. Last time they met, the total was 52.5. We have a 48.5 point total in this game. Expect the NRL want points in this matchup to, liven the game up, I guess, over in Perth. Manly, 4 of their 5 games this season have gone over the number. Just the matchup against the Eels a couple of weeks ago was the only one to go under. Sharks, though, their last 4 games have gone under. Really struggling from an attacking perspective. Only 26 points across their past 2 games. We know they have 24, 28, 30 points in them. I think we'll see points in this game against an opponent that they previously had no issue scoring against. Their past 5 games, you got 40, 26, 20, 40, and 34 points for the Sharks in each of those. I lean towards the over in this game, and I think Sharks should be able to get the win or at least keep it very close. It could be a very close game, so I'm not 100% decided which way I want to go here, but leaning towards the Sharks to win as favourites. The following game, so the 5:30 p.m. game, Rabbitohs versus Cowboys. Rabbitohs underdogs here, so Cowboys in as favourites, $1.72, minus 1.5. Total is 51.5. I'm a touch surprised Cowboys are favourites for this game. Rabbitohs have a very good record against them. They've won 7 of the past 9. However, Cowboys have won the past 2 across the past 2 seasons. Generally, these sides only meet once per season. Rabbitohs have also covered 5 of the past 7. Rabbitohs did cover that last meeting in round 11 last season as 9.5 point underdogs. Cowboys, it's a little bit of a tricky spot for them. They were down in Sydney last week, beat the Panthers, and now have to travel to Perth. Whereas the Rabbitohs, if you look through their season so far, they've played their last 4 games, all of them in Sydney. They've won 4 of those 5 games. Haven't had to leave Sydney since round 1 when playing the Dolphins. Now we'll travel to Perth. So they're well rested going into this game. Cowboys have an extra day's rest advantage based on when they played last week, but overall, travel-wise, it's a big advantage for the Rabbitohs. Rabbitohs come into this back-to-back wins. They've covered the spread in all 5 games so far. All 5 have gone under, which also leans towards this trend. The past 3 between these two sides have gone under. For the Cowboys, 3 of their past 4 games have gone under. Just the matchup against the Raiders, where there was 50 points scored, was the only one that went over the total. This season also, so far, the Cowboys have trailed at halftime in 4 of their 5 games. So they've done well to win their past 2. They did lead at halftime against the Raiders. That was the only game they led at halftime against. For the Rabbitohs, they've led at halftime in their past 2 against the Panthers and Roosters. For this matchup, I definitely like the Rabbitohs as the underdog. I think Latrell Mitchell makes a huge difference to that side. And the travel situation for the Cowboys isn't ideal. This season, like, the Rabbitohs are conceding 19.4 points a game compared to the Cowboys at 28.4 a game. So defensively, there's a strong edge here with the Rabbitohs. From a totals perspective, I'd be leaning towards the under, but not super confident. But Rabbitohs games definitely have that tendency to go under, and we've seen the recent form between these sides be pushing that way, but only 1 meeting per season, and less inclined to play an under at a neutral venue like this game sets up to be. Parramatta versus Canberra, the late game on Saturday, which will be played in Darwin. Canberra favourites here, $1.52, -5.5, and we have a 48.5 point total. Last time they met was round 5 in Canberra last season, where Canberra won that game 41-8 as $1.80 favourites. Coming into this game, Parramatta broke their 4-game losing streak to start the season, beating the Dragons in Golden Point. Parramatta have also covered the past 3 games overall this season. Their last 4 as well have gone under the total due to the fact that they're still struggling to score. The 23 points they got last week, where 2 tries came late to get them to that score, but prior to that, they hadn't scored over 18 points. Defensively, they've been better the past 3 weeks compared to what they were in the opening games against Storm and Tigers. And then for the Canberra Raiders, 3 of their past 4 games have gone over. Been conceding points, so that gives hope for the Eels that they can find points in this game. The Raiders have conceded 20 plus in their past 4 games, and they've also scored 20 plus in 4 of the 5 games this season, with the Manly game being the only exception. The key question you have to ask yourself about this game is, how will the Eels come through that win last week? And I guess both sides are coming off wins that were a bit emotional. Eels winning in Golden Point, Raiders scoring with a game-winning try on virtually the last play of the game. How they progress through that and whether either side has a letdown performance will be key. I'm not sure if I would ever back Parramatta to win this game, but I think they can keep it somewhat close. I think we'll see, a small margin to either winner of this game. So at 5.5, there's probably not quite enough value there to actually bet. This is a game that I'm not super keen to get involved with from a betting perspective. On a total, I'd probably lean towards the over just based on how these teams have been performing. From a side, I don't really want to be involved with either team. On Sunday, Melbourne Storm back at home against the Warriors. Storm have played their last 2 games on the road. They are $1.17, -14.5 point favorites, and we have a 50.5 point total. There's definitely some very strong trends for this matchup. Firstly, the Storm have won the past 16 versus the New Zealand Warriors. The average margin across all 16 of those games has been 20.6 points. And then if you just look at the Storm home games against the Warriors, the average margin is 25.2. Though, looking at that, recent history tells us a little bit of a different story. Warriors have covered 3 of the past 4 versus Storm, so the potentially gap between the sides has closed a little bit. The last 4 head-to-head have all been decided by 14 or less, which puts it under what the handicap is for this game. Aside from those last 4, the previous 5 games were all 22 plus point margins. 8 of the past 9 head-to-head have gone over. Storm games during the day go over. Storm are 3-1 to the over so far this season. Expect Melbourne win this game. I think we'll see points. Storm also have led at halftime in all 4 games so far this season. And for the Warriors, they've only led at halftime once, which was against Manly. Warriors, to their credit, they're coming to this 3 straight wins off the bye. There's a chance they can definitely keep this close, but I think Storm will just be too good in the end at home, but we'll likely see plenty of points in this matchup. At 50.5, slight lean towards the over, especially this being a road game for New Zealand. On the road this season, the Warriors have conceded 30 points against Canberra, that was in America, and last game in Sydney against the West Tigers, they conceded 24 points. So that gives them a 27-point average point conceded in their 2 road games. Compared to at home, they conceded 16 and 6. So an 11-point average in their points conceded. So Storm could definitely run in those 30 points without surprising, especially after what they did last week against the Seagulls. And then final game of the round, Knights versus Tigers. Newcastle favourites here, $1.62, -5.5, and we have a 46.5 point line. Newcastle, all 4 games this season have gone under the total points line. Tigers, though, their past 3 have gone over. This matchup, 5 of the past 7 head-to-head have gone under. Knights have won the past 7 and covered 6 of the past 7. And also Newcastle at home have won the past 3 against the Tigers by 16, 16, and 22 points. The last time they met was just round 1 this season. Knights winning by 2, but failing to cover a 3.5 point handicap. This time, though, they meet at Newcastle. This game is very, very tricky to call because you have 2 completely opposite trends going against each other. Tigers are well and truly capable of scoring points. They've scored 24 plus in each of their last 4 games, but did only score 8 against the Knights back in round 1. But they're finding points with ease, whereas the Knights rely absolutely on their defense to win games. They don't have points in them. To be honest, the more I look at this game, the more I think Tigers are a big chance of causing an upset here on the road in Newcastle. They went very close to beating them in round 1 and did lead 8-0 at halftime as well. So I think there's plenty of value here with the Tigers to close out the round. That scoreline last week against the Broncos definitely doesn't give credit to the Tigers' overall performance, losing by 22 points. They were only -2 in total tries scored. Just need better goal kicking to keep themselves in matches and give themselves a chance, and goal line defense. Knights failed to score, but didn't really get much field position. If the Tigers can get back to their defense that they produced in rounds 1 to 3, they'll win this game. So that's the question you really have to ask yourself. But like the Tigers here to go against the trend of recent history between these 2 sides, and strong chances of winning. From a total perspective, the reason why I think Tigers win is because I think all the points in this game are with the Tigers. Unless Tigers lapse defensively, Knights are going to struggle to score, and they're just making way too many errors to give themselves that chance. Yeah, that's how I'm looking at the final game of the round. Later in the week, once lineups are announced, once we have that bit more information on how these teams are going to shape up, that's when I'll lock in my exact betting decisions. If you want to see what those are, the link is in the description to the NRL Best membership. That's where I also do previews for every single game where we go through the statistics, how these teams shape up against each other in attack and defense, where the strengths and weaknesses are, and why I'm making specific bets. So I do in-depth previews for the Thursday and Friday games, Saturday games, and Sunday games. So if you want to see those and everything I'm betting, that's in the NRL Best Bets membership. Plus, you get to use all the Bet Finder tools for yourselves. So if you're betting try scorers and all that kind of thing, all of that is included, where you can analyze try scorer trends, where the matchups are beneficial or non-beneficial for certain positions for teams. So definitely check that out. Links in the description. Thanks guys for watching. Good luck with your bets this weekend. The try scorer video will be out later in the week once lineups are announced, so stay tuned for that. And make sure you subscribe to the channel for more videos like this on the NRL throughout the season, so you can be a profitable NRL bettor.